Thank you for joining me for this week's weekly snippet from my upcoming book, How's That Working for You When You Are Your Own Obstacle? So, for tonight's episode 12, we're going to talk about empathy. Last week in episode 11, we talked about empowerment, and we talked about how empowerment deals with basically things within yourself, of you identifying and understanding your worth, abilities, and those attributes. This week, we're going to talk about an equally important but a little bit of a different theme, which is empathy, which is basically when you're helping to understand where someone else is coming from as far as their thoughts and their emotions and being able to meet them where they are. To start off our conversation tonight, I want to first talk about the formal definition of empathy. So, looking at two versions of the definition, very similar. The first one is from Oxford, and the second one we'll talk about is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. So, from Oxford, Oxford defines empathy as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Merriam Webster defines it as understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and my favorite part of this definition, vicariously experiencing the feelings and thoughts of another. Like, wow. So, with understanding empathy, one of the things I do want to make sure to point out up front is that with empathy, it's not an automatic thing. We're not born and we're just empathetic, like we just feel everything and we understand and can meet people where they are. No, empathy is something that is learned. It is something that you develop through your experiences, and it is something that you can work on it if you choose to work on it. Empathy can be hindered by certain factors. It can be hindered by factors such as anger, such as feelings of hurt. If I'm angry with you about something, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to empathize with how you're feeling in that moment, because all I'm thinking about is myself right now. I am angry with something you did or a situation, and I'm not trying to empathize. Another factor is that hurt. If I'm hurt by something that someone did to me or hurt by a situation, it's going to be hard for me to empathize with how other people are feeling in that moment. Not saying I can't, but it's going to be a little bit harder. Another thing is personal biases. If I feel some kind of way about a particular topic, a particular thing, a particular event, particular things that people do, or particular people, it's going to be harder for me to empathize and meet them where they are, right? Because I already have a bias. I'm already kind of blocking off and receiving what they're putting out, right? And with it, the other thing to consider is that all of those things, whether it's anger, whether it's fear, whether it is, you know, the hurt, those things are going to hinder the effective interaction of that relationship because you aren't able to empathize in that moment. Some of it is survival mode, especially like with the fear. If I'm fearful of something, like if I see a bear, I'm not empathizing with, wow, I wonder if that bear is hungry right now. Let me see how he's feeling. No, I'm thinking about, I'm fearful that this bear is going to eat me. So I'm going to get the heck out of Dodge. Just to understand, there are different factors that go into empathizing, right? So with empathizing, one of the things that is also important about empathizing is not only important for you, the individual, but it's also important for how you are able to interact with others. And again, like we said, meeting them where they are. Certain attributes that go with empathy are, first of all, being able to listen. In order for you to empathize with someone, you need to be open ears, open mind to listen and receive what it is that they're putting out to you, right? And then once you can listen and you can kind of understand that, is for you to then maybe acknowledge their emotions, and then also to understand what they're feeling. Sometimes people, when you're empathizing with them, they may not want your advice. They may just need you to be there for them, to be that shoulder, to be those ears. But in order for you to do that, you need to be able to understand empathy and how to be there for another person. We're going to get a little bit of an insight into a scene from Blue, one of our main characters. And with Blue's profession in the mental health field, empathy is something that, like, she has to have that for her job. But that is something personally, this tonight we're not going to talk about so much her job piece and how empathy plays a role in her being successful and effective at being a counselor or a therapist. We're going to talk about in a personal way what that looks like for her and how some of her experiences have kind of colored or tailored her empathy and how it shows up. So without further ado, sit back and indulge me for a few brief moments as I give you a little bit of this scene from chapter 6 regarding our character Blue. Blue loved playing loud music in the car while driving on her morning commute or during long road trips. However, if she had a traveling companion, she was always mindful that not everyone liked to hear the same thing that she did. An enclosed space with another person was no place for extreme volume. On those type of drives, Blue put the radio on a neutral station. Gentle, ambient, instrumental jazz or gospel. Oh, and her hands were at the 10 and the 2 on those steering wheel. The riding companion, the reason for the shared journey, and the destination could cause Blue to either be more anxious, which might make her be more talkative to fill in that awkward silence, or less anxious and to be quiet so that she can be open to listen and understand what things that they might be expressing to her. Blue was absorbing, either unintentionally or intentionally, whatever the other person or the people in the car with her were saying or what they might be going through. Sometimes that might even be without them actually saying anything. The unintentional emotional absorption was one of the downfalls of Blue being an empath. It's something that made her good at what she does, but also could sometimes be potentially detrimental. Empathy was stressful for Blue even more so since she came back from her 4th deployment. All right, so that's this week's snippet. A couple of things that before we close out tonight's snippet, particularly related to empathy, is with empathy, I really want you to take a look at what I shared with you as far as with the snippet and with the topic of empathy, and think about how does that show up in your life? What were some of the things that maybe resonated with you from the snippet that was provided from Blue's perspective? Can you relate to that, especially if you are a military or first responder and maybe empathy has been either made better or it's been impacted either positive or negatively because of the things that you've experienced and you trying to be better at how you show up for other people, okay? The other thing I want you all to do is, if you like this topic that we talked about tonight, this weekly snippet, hey, go ahead and give me a thumbs up in the box. Empathize with me that, you're receiving what I'm putting out. If you're not already subscribed, click that subscribe button so you receive the updates when I post content in the future related to the book, as well as some other things on the site. The other thing I also would like for you all to do, I will be posting a poll, and the poll will actually have 3 of the potential book covers for the upcoming book. The publisher is, they're working hard at getting the book published. We were hoping before the end of the year, but with the holidays coming up, it's looking like it's going to be more going into the beginning of the year, January, February time frame. So, hopefully before Valentine's Day. I would really love that, pun intended. But with it, I just want you, when I post the poll, to go ahead and vote. There's going to be 3 options. Go ahead and vote on which one was your favorite. If you have comments on, hey, this one really resonated with me because of XYZ, put that in the comments section. I look forward to your feedback because, again, iron sharpens iron. We're all here to do the best we can, what we have. And with this book, this is me giving a little bit of myself to you all in hopes that it helps someone with overcoming obstacles, not being their own obstacles, and just looking at some of the things that are part of our journey that helps make us who we are, but also helps us to be better and to show up for those we care about. So it's not goodbye, it's bye for now. I look forward to seeing you next time, and I thank you again for stopping by and joining me for this week's weekly snippet.